What I'm showing right now are some of the most popular Chinese singers for the time being. Now, here's a little challenge question for you. Can you name one song by these singers? I bet you are not able to because even most Chinese people will struggle to come up with an answer. This is in stark comparison to China's neighboring countries, Japan and South Korea. Because even if you're not into K-pop or J-pop, you could probably name at least one song by this artist, or this artist, or this artist and this artist. So Cpop, as of right now, is pretty much irrelevant on the international stage. If that's not bad enough, what if I tell you that Cpop has also become kind of irrelevant within China domestically? Here's what I mean by that. This is the 2024 annual song ranking report from QQ Music, China's largest music streaming platform, the equivalent of Spotify, I assume. So this report ranks the top 10 most listened to songs from 2024, and something really strange lies here. 7 out of these 10 songs were released 10 years ago. 3 of them were in fact released 15 years ago. This song right here, I remember it being played at my kindergarten during lunch breaks, which was like 18 years ago. So people are holding on to old songs. Why? Well, because the newer songs coming out of Cpop in recent years have been either boringly generic or just straight up awful, that sayings like Cpop is doomed or Cpop has flopped have been spreading all over Chinese Twitter. And nowadays, almost every time a popular singer releases a new song, hashtag unlistenable/painful to the ears would immediately start trending. Up until now, this hashtag has accumulated 10.5 billion views. So it seems to be common consensus now that Cpop is dead, which is a tragedy because things were not always this way. Back in the mid-2000s, Cpop actually had a golden era, an era where Jay Chou, Stephanie Sun, David Tao, Angela Chang, and many other iconic singers had to fight tooth and nail for a spot on the music charts. Back then, you could pick any random pop song from the charts and it'd be a total classic, something I'd proudly recommend to my friends. So how did Cpop fall from beautiful classic pieces like Orange Jasmine, Aurora, to trashy, low-effort embarrassment like these songs?
拜拜甜甜圈珍珠奶茶方便面火锅米饭大盘鸡拿走别客气真心话这碗大碗宽面也很贵那一天的犹豫起来
In this video, I'm going to explore the 2 factors that I think led to the downfall of Cpop. Factor number 1, China's attempt to introduce K-pop idol culture and how it destroyed Cpop. In 2014, there was an event that not only stirred up major dramas in K-pop, but also sent shockwaves to the Cpop industry. That event is none other than the exit of the 3 Chinese members from EXO. From 2014 to 2015, Chris Wu, Lu Han, and Tao subsequently filed lawsuits against SM Entertainment with the objective of leaving EXO. While their lawsuits were still ongoing, they wasted no time in returning back to China and they immediately started promoting themselves within China. Now, you may ask, how were they able to do that when their lawsuits weren't even resolved yet? In the event of them losing the lawsuit, wouldn't they have to pay settlement fees to SM Entertainment for breach of contract? Well, the reason is that they were able to make so much more money in China that would far outweigh whatever settlement fees they may have to pay, because they were just that popular. It took no time for Chinese fans to embrace them and support whatever projects they were on, be it music or things completely unrelated to music, such as acting and hosting on variety shows. To say that they took China by storm would be an understatement. Little did anyone know at that time that their popularity would fundamentally change the trajectory of Cpop. Let's take Lu Han as an example. In December 2015, 1 year after exiting EXO, Lu Han released his first solo album, Reloaded. This album sold a whopping 3 million copies in a short amount of time, which was unprecedented in Chinese music history, and it broke all kinds of musical records. The album eventually won Album of the Year, and Lu Han himself was awarded Best Male Singer of the Year by QQ Music. Now, when we think about the concept of Best Album of the Year, what comes to mind? Personally, I would think of iconic, legendary albums that almost everyone knows and can sing along to. For example, The Fame by Lady Gaga or Map of the Soul by BTS. Traditionally, for an album to be considered Best Album of the Year, it has to be popular not just within the fan base, but also the general public. It needs to be like household name level. But that's absolutely not the case with Lu Han's album. Now, what I'm about to say may sound really mean and overly blunt, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. Outside of Luhan's fan base, I don't think there's that many people who have listened to his music. So far in my life, I've met like one Chinese person in total who knows any of his songs. And I'm pretty sure if you asked 10 of your Chinese friends to hum a Luhan song, 9 of them will struggle. Because the songs are just not that great. I wouldn't call them trashy, but they're definitely not the quality you'd expect from an album of the year contender. So how did this mediocre album manage to rack up so many sales? The answer is simple. Fans bought his albums in bulk, just like how you would stock up on toilet paper in bulk. This practice of album bulk buying is very uncommon in the West because typically you could only buy once with one account on major platforms like iTunes. However, it's a pretty common practice in East Asian idol fandoms, where music platforms would take advantage of the toxic fandom culture and encourage fans to buy the same single or album over and over again in an effort to boost sales and ultimately top the charts. And they're able to do that because in today's fandom culture, you cannot just be a casual fan. Like if you only stream your idol songs occasionally, you do not qualify as a real fan. That kind of behavior is called freeloading, a despicable frowned-upon behavior within the fandom. So to actually qualify as a fan, you must financially support your idol's work. Under such a culture, fan club sites will encourage or straight up pressure fans to buy as many albums as possible. They will guilt trip you into thinking that you play a direct role in your idol's success or failure. So if there's some flops or if they don't succeed, then that's on you because you didn't buy enough albums. For example, here's a typical post from a fan side urging fans to spend as much as possible on a newly released single. They straight up say that if you only bought 1 or 2 copies, then you don't qualify as a real fan. Everyone should buy at least 100 copies because that's the price of a lipstick and anyone can spare the cost of a lipstick. And it doesn't stop here. Fan clubs have also developed many other creative tactics to incentivize more buying, such as bundling album purchase with the idol's merch. So for every piece of merch you buy, you're also partially paying for the albums. Or running lottery-style giveaways which reward fans who have spent above a certain threshold. As you can imagine, not only is this practice of bulk buying extremely wasteful as the excess albums will just end up in landfills, but it also damages the music industry because musicians are no longer competing on the quality of their music. Instead, they're competing on the purchasing power of their fans. To put into perspective how damaging this could be, let's look into the following scenario. I think anyone with a sound mind would agree that Rolling in the Deep by Adele is a better song than whatever this song is called by Logan Paul. That being said though, Logan Paul does have a massive and loyal fan base. What if all his fans are successfully mobilized into supporting this song? Like what if they all start looping the song non-stop or register a million other accounts to bulk stream / bulk buy? In that case, there's a real possibility that Logan might just beat Adele on the music charts. Believe it or not, that's kind of what's been happening in Cpop lately. In 2019, Chinese netizens witnessed an unprecedented and unbelievably absurd moment in Cpop history, the massive online battle between Jay Chou's fans and Cai Xukun's fans, where the two fandoms fought over who is the more popular singer, Jay Chou or Cai Xukun. This battle would later turn into a national laughingstock for all the absurd reasons. So who is Jay Chou? This guy needs no explanation. Arguably the most iconic musician in contemporary Cpop. Some would even say that he's on par with the Beatles in terms of influence on pop music in the Chinese-speaking sphere. And who is Cai Xukun? He is a singer/idol who debuted through a reality survival show called Idol Producer in 2018, a show modeled after South Korean idol survival shows like Produce 101 and Mix 9. So Cai Xukun finished first place in Idol Producer and has thus gained a massive following of devoted fans who would bulk buy his songs, albums, as well as engage in other fan work that would boost his popularity online. And just like Luhan, his music is sort of unheard of outside of his fandom. So this whole battle began when Cai Xukun fans released a post claiming that Jay Chou is no longer relevant and is nowhere near Cai Xukun's popularity because Jay Chou had never trended on super topics on Chinese Twitter. To put it into perspective, it's like Logan Paul's fans claiming the Beatles were never as popular as Logan since Logan appears more in house searches. Understandably, Jay Chou fans were outraged. Furious, they decided to push Jay Chou to super topics. What made this whole thing hilarious was that most of Jay's fans had never been a part of this whole idol stan culture, so they had to learn overnight like how to farm the charts from scratch. Within just 4 days, it escalated into a full-scale data war. By this point, even celebrities and influencers jumped in to support Jay Chou, and their effort paid off. Jay eventually did reach number 1 on super topics, putting a stop to this whole farce. Alright, some of you may wonder, if the quality of the music produced by these idols was not that great, then how did they end up with so many fans in the first place? Well, part of the reason is that in China, being an idol just isn't as competitive. Unlike the cutthroat survival of the fittest world of K-pop, China's idol industry is still relatively new and far from saturated. So whenever a new idol group is launched, they pretty much blow up instantly. Some examples include TF Boys, TNT, which is like the successor to TF Boys, Rocket Girls 101, which is the group that formed in Produce 101 China, kind of like the equivalent of Ice One. And then we've also got The Nine, a girl group formed through another survival show, Youth With You. It's worth mentioning that the center of this group, Liu Yixin, released a mini album in 2021, which broke the record for the best-selling album in Cpop history. It sold almost 6 million copies, which surpassed Love Yourself by BTS in sales numbers. But again, I highly doubt the average person has ever listened to her songs unless they're a part of her fandom. Another reason these idols became so popular is by doing other things completely unrelated to music, such as acting and hosting on variety shows. Still using the Lu Han example, after filing his lawsuit, he was immediately cast in high-budget films, and he also became a host on Running Man China. These activities had already earned him a massive fan following even before his solo music career started. So now we've got a new way of doing things in Cpop, whereby rather than picking people with musical talent, companies will instead pick people who are good looking, turn them into actors or TV show hosts. Once they've gained a large fan base through acting and all these other things, then they will maybe release some music on the side. You see, in this whole pipeline, music becomes an afterthought, a secondary side project. Given this kind of culture, it is no surprise that you would often hear about these music scandals every once in a while, such as the Lu Han versus Yulushika incident, where Lu Han's team blatantly plagiarized the storyboard from Yulushika's hit song That's Why I Give Up on Music for his own music video. Although his team later apologized and fixed the video, the damage to his reputation was already done, turning him into a laughingstock among J-pop fans in China. Some even joke that the album released by Yulushika a month later, titled Plagiarism, drew inspiration from the Lu Han incident, sort of like a diss track, but expressed in poetic Yulushika-style lyrics. Alright, moving on to the second factor that led to the downfall of Cpop, the TikTokification of music. Now, there are already plenty of videos made about the damage TikTok has done to modern music. Considering that TikTok originated in China, the impact there is like amped up by 200. Music has become a mere sidekick to videos. Songs go viral not for their quality but for how well they fit TikTok dances or memes, giving us a flood of trashy, low-effort songs. Perhaps the perfect example is this song titled Let's Meow, an extremely popular song not just on TikTok but pretty much all over China, both online and offline. This song encapsulates everything I hate about modern TikTok music. Aside from the incredibly shallow and meaningless lyrics,
let's learn how to meow. Let's meow, meow, meow.
The melody, rhythm, and harmony are all just too generic and simple, making it sound like countless other songs, such as this song.
Oh baby, I need 这一生只爱你.
or this song?
如果我是水瓶座，只有你能了解我；如果我是双鱼座，只有你陪我啰嗦。
Or this song?
你说你喜欢森女系，而我多了一个 G， 就像 LOVE 去掉一半变萝莉。
Like, I really don't hear much of a difference. Now, this is not to say that there is plagiarism going on, as music plagiarism is quite complex and not within my expertise. My point is, after TikTok became popular, music is no longer a carefully crafted art form. Instead, songs are being churned out like factory Temu-style streamlined products. In year 2021 alone, a whopping 1.2 million Cpop songs were written and released, most of them tailored for TikTok, aka rushed, low-effort songs designed to gamble on the algorithm in hopes of becoming viral. Unsurprisingly, this has led to a lot of songs sounding eerily similar. Perhaps the most alarming aspect is that the newer generation who grow up with TikTok might not see anything wrong with it. Like, the reason you and I look down on TikTok music is because we had the experience of listening to the Beatles or Adele, so we know what good music sounds like. But for Generation Alphas who grow up immersed in TikTok music, will they even be able to tell good music from bad music? Conclusion. So, is Cpop over? Well, I don't think there's ever a lack of musical talent in Cpop. Each year, tons of good songs are still being produced by talented indie musicians. However, many of them are struggling to make it to the mainstream because Cpop as an industry is in a state of complete mess. From idol stan culture to TikTok domination, there doesn't seem to be much room left for genuine musicianship. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.